But it is going to be very, very difficult, and there is a balancing game. The county is finding itself in a position to where it is going to have to find a way, and this is the board's job, find a way of balancing the budget to meet fixed expenses, day-to-day operations, and at the same time put ourselves in a position to where there is sufficient monies and capitals to have long-range planning, such as schools. And unfortunately, we have the potential courthouse renovation looming over us. And one of the best things that the solutions that I find, and it is very difficult, especially in this climate, is economic growth. And with that economic growth, when we bring industries in, it generates a tremendous amount of money that you don't normally see. And I truly believe that is hopefully some of the things that we can see happen. I know that a number of years ago, and this is one of the things that we quietly do within our office, I remember Reline America in Saltville had narrowed it down between Smith County and another county. I believe it was Maryland. I believe it was in Maryland. They had narrowed it down to two choices. And Tracy Mitchell, who was at that time the economic development person for the town of Saltville, called me up and said, "Jeff, I need for you to explain machinery and tool tax to the owners of this company. They're confused on it. They don't understand it." And we were on about an hour-long conference call explaining it to them, the particulars of it, and reassuring them that machinery and tool law for them in the Commonwealth of Virginia was going to be more advantageous than it was for them to be in Maryland. They had some misconceptions about it. So I know there's others have wondered what we do. At times, whenever we can find ourselves in a position to create that economic growth, because that's our answer. We have got to grow. We're simply not going to, and we're not going to be able to do it, I don't think, doing it by automobiles and local real estate. There's just not a sufficient amount of money to put that enough whipped cream on the top of all that hot fudge cake. It's just not.
Do we see any more stimulus money coming?
I believe, from what I understand, the state of Virginia had some stimulus money this year that they were able to utilize, but not nearly what it was for that last fiscal year. It's just not as much there. And Smith County was not the exception. I mean, all across the Commonwealth of Virginia. As a matter of fact, Virginia was the first state to take the stimulus money and utilize it to balance its budget.
What about new industry? I mean, who does that? Where does that come from? You know, as far as, is that the board of director or the board of supervisors? Is that our economic person? Is that the
most economic? And again, this is not within parameters of what I do, but we have Sally Morgan, economic development. There are committees that are established. I know I just heard recently that there is going to be I believe a small new industry that is going to be opening up within the Chilhowie area, and which should bring some employment. What we want to do is have the advantage of having more industries is it broadens the tax base. It relieves burden. The other advantage is that when you have that tax base and that industry in there, they're paying wages, which brings additional monies into it, which means folks can buy automobiles and be assessed appropriately, improve their homes. And that's what we want. But it is right now in this economic climate a tough road to hoe.
All right, talking about assessments, this question comes, and we had a couple of these worded differently from the folks, but the gist is it true the company that handled our assessments this year is from Northern Virginia? The person wrote, "In case you haven't noticed, it's night and day between Smith County and the northern part of our state. How do you choose who assesses our county and where they're from?"
Blake, that's a great question. It really is, and because I think that folks want to feel like that their values are being of their homes is based upon local values, not something out of Northern Virginia. Is it true that the company is from Northern Virginia? Well, now, if you speak to the folks from Northern Virginia, from Stanton, they will very quickly inform me that they're not Northern Virginia, but they are the Shenandoah Valley. But there's no doubt about it. The Shenandoah Valley is different than Southwest Virginia. They were. And the question being, okay, how were they chosen? There's a process that goes forth that has gone forth for a number of years. It is a bidding process. And it is initiated and started actually by the Mount Rogers Planning District. What they actually do, the Mount Rogers Planning District does, is that they end up taking bids from companies that not only for Smith County but the entire Mount Rogers Planning District. The concept is that when all the counties come together in one bid, that everybody is going to get a much better rate. So companies place their bids with the Mount Rogers Planning District. Now, this is how we ended up with the company from Stanton. When those bids were put into Mount Rogers Planning District, they only received 2 bids. Both of those companies, Blue Ridge Mass Appraisal out of Stanton, and another one which is called Pearson's. Both of those companies were in Eastern Virginia. So right out of the chute, no company in Southwest Virginia even placed a bid. As a result of that, every county, those were their choices if they stayed within the Mount Rogers plan. The Board of Supervisors at that point had an option of accepting or discarding that bid. The summer they voted on that was the summer where the gas prices went up. And they had a bid of, I believe it was 13 some cents per parcel. The other bid from Pearson's was actually, I believe, $6 higher per parcel. So they ended up accepting the bid from Blue Ridge because it was during a time when gas prices had gone up. At least this is what I think. I don't want to speak for the board. And as a result of that, their bid saved the taxpayers rather than Pearson's about $130,000 in cost. One advantage that most folks don't know is about Blue Ridge is that Blue Ridge's headquarters are in Stanton. Actually, 3 of their employees that went through most of the county visiting homes and actually are either still residents of or were born or still living in Smith County at this time. So it's really 3 guys that happen to work, local fellows, out of 4. They might have had 4 in the field most of the time, but 3 of them are actually from our area, which is an advantage, I believe. But that's how the company is chosen. It's through that bid process. They're then hired by the board. My job primarily with them is as a liaison, working with the company, making sure that they have the information necessary, making them aware of unusual circumstances. For example, the situation involving the Sugar Grove water system. I made sure that I contacted the water company. I received addresses of every address so that I could notify the appraisal company of that situation so that they could take that into consideration when they established values.